My name is Sienna Caldwell. I'm 29, and I didn't know a relationship could die quietly until my boyfriend told me he was going on a 2 week self discovery trip with his ex girlfriend. It was one of those evenings that feels harmless when you look back on it later. The living room smelled like microwave popcorn. Some forgettable show murmured from the TV. I was curled into the corner of the couch, half alive, scrolling my phone the way you do when you're too tired to admit how tired you actually are. Ethan came out of the bedroom, wearing the face people wear when they've practiced bad news in the mirror. He stood right in front of the TV. "I need to talk to you about something serious," he said. My stomach dropped before my brain even caught up. I muted the TV. "Okay, what's going on?" He took a slow, dramatic breath. With Ethan, it was always either a confession or a personal reinvention. "I'm going on a self discovery trip." I blinked. "A trip?" He nodded. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Not a weekend, not a break. 2 weeks is what people do when they want to come back changed, or not come back at all. "Where?" I asked. "It's a wellness retreat." His eyes lit up. That performative glow he got whenever he talked about growth, mindfulness, journaling, hiking. It's supposed to realign you, reset your energy. I watched his posture. His hands were clasped like he was giving a presentation. He wouldn't meet my eyes for more than a second. "Who are you going with?" I asked. He said it like it was nothing. Marisol. Everything inside me went silent. Marisol Vega, his college ex, the one who really understood his creativity, the one whose photos still floated through his social media like a ghost he never quite blocked. "With Marisol?" I repeated. "Just you and her?" His jaw tightened, then smoothed back into the version of himself he wanted me to buy. "Don't make this awkward. It's not about her." That sentence always comes first, doesn't it? "We're friends now," he said. "She's dealing with stuff too, and we found this retreat that had a group rate." "A group rate for two?" I asked. He laughed like I was being cute. "Two spots open last minute. It's not like that." So I did what I'd learned to do with Ethan. I didn't get emotional. I didn't get quiet. I didn't ask the wrong questions. "When do you leave?" I asked. "Tuesday morning." "That's soon." He stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was offering me a gift. "That's why it's perfect, spontaneous, like life is opening." He wasn't guilty. He was excited. And suddenly I saw it clearly. This wasn't a trip. It was a test to see how much I'd tolerate, how small I'd make myself, how cool I'd be so he could keep telling people he had the perfect, supportive girlfriend. He waited for my reaction. I took a slow sip of water and said softly, "That sounds wonderful." His eyebrows jumped. "Really?" "If you need to find yourself," I said gently, "who am I to stand in your way?" Relief flooded his face. He smiled too wide. Then he kissed my forehead. Not my mouth, not my cheek, my forehead. "This is why I adore you," he said. "You're so enlightened." Enlightened. What I felt wasn't enlightenment, it was clarity. Over the next 3 days, Ethan packed like he was preparing for a new life, new athleisure, supplements, electrolytes, playlists called Inner Peace. He talked about alignment while leaving dishes in the sink. At night, I stared at the ceiling, listening to the refrigerator hum, grieving something my heart hadn't admitted was already dead. "You're really okay with this?" he kept asking. "Of course," I kept saying. "Go find yourself." Tuesday morning, I drove him to the airport. The sky looked tired. So did I. He hugged me fast. "I'll have spotty service." "No worries. Enjoy your journey." He walked away without looking back, and the moment he disappeared into the crowd, my hands stopped shaking. The decision had already been made. I sat in the parking garage and whispered, "He doesn't get to do this and still come home to my life." Then I drove straight to a moving company. Not to cry, not to vent, not to confront him, straight to a moving company. "I need a move scheduled today," I said. She blinked. "Today? I'll pay extra." And that's how my relationship ended. Not with a fight, not with screaming, not with tears in an airport terminal. It ended quietly. While he went off to find himself with his ex, I stayed behind and finally found myself without him. The realtor's fingers moved quickly across her keyboard, her nails clicking in a soft, steady rhythm. While she typed, my phone buzzed inside my purse. A text from Ethan. "Boarding now." So proud of us for being evolved. I stared at the screen for half a second longer than necessary. Then I turned the phone face down on the counter and signed my name at the bottom of the papers. Evolved, sure, if evolution meant finally growing a spine. Here's what Ethan didn't know, what he never bothered to know, because he lived in a world where things always just worked out for him. His name was never on the lease. He moved in 8 months ago, sliding into my life the way some people slide into conversations, assuming they belong there because no one has told them otherwise. I'd meant to add him, I really had. At first, it felt romantic, like we were building something permanent. But then, it was always next week. Always after my schedule calms down. Always some excuse wrapped in charm. And in the end, I was grateful I never did, because legally, the apartment was mine, and practically 80% of everything in it was mine too. The couch he sprawled across like a king? Mine. The dining table he never wiped down? Mine. The bed frame he climbed into every night like softness was his birthright? Mine. Even the ridiculous jungle of houseplants he loves showing off on social media. Look at our peaceful home vibe. I'd paid for almost all of them, including the massive fiddle-leaf fig he named Zenith, like he was the one keeping it alive. I drove home and stepped inside the apartment. For a moment, the air felt different, like it already knew what was about to happen. Everything looked the same. I didn't. I didn't hesitate. I didn't stand in the hallway mourning a version of myself who would have begged him to choose me. I went straight to the closet and pulled down the folder from the top shelf. Lease, utility bills, receipts, documents, the boring stuff you never think about until your life turns into a legal situation. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and pulled up my email. 3 days earlier, while Ethan was out cleansing his spirit at some overpriced wellness cafe, I'd signed a new lease. Not impulsively, not in a burst of rage. After, because I didn't decide all at once. I decided slowly, in pieces. I decided when he joked about my job being corporate slavery while using my credit card for groceries. I decided when he started saying things like, "You're lucky I'm the kind of man who values growth." I decided when Marisol's name started showing up in his stories a little too often, always wrapped in nostalgia. And I decided completely the second T said, "Don't make this awkward." Monday, yesterday, I toured an apartment across town. Quieter building, better security, new plumbing, amazing water pressure, the landlord had said proudly. I signed the lease that afternoon, paid the deposit, scheduled the movers for immediately. Now it was Tuesday, and Ethan was in the air. I stood in the middle of the living room with my hands on my hips, letting my eyes move over everything like I was taking inventory. What was mine? What was his? What belonged to a woman who finally chose herself, and what belonged to a man who thought love was a storage unit for his ego. Then I started. I packed with the kind of calm discipline that surprised even me. No dramatic trash bags, no rage, no revenge, just precision. I wrapped my dishes, boxed my books, labeled my kitchen appliances. I unplugged the TV I'd bought on Black Friday and paid off by myself. By noon, 2 movers arrived. Big guys, quiet voices, the kind who didn't ask questions. "Everything going?" one of them asked, glancing around. "Not everything," I said. "Just mine." He nodded, like that made perfect sense, because it did. We moved for 2 days. 2 days of carrying my life down the elevator and into the truck. Each box felt like exhaling. Each trip felt like reclaiming space inside my chest. I didn't touch Ethan's things except to gather them, and even then, I was careful. I folded his clothes neatly, stacked his shoes by the entryway, put his toiletries into a plastic bin. I boxed his half-finished business notebooks, the ones full of phrases like brand resonance and monetize authenticity, and labeled it simply, Ethan. Then I arranged everything in the living room like an exhibit, not to be kind, to be unarguable, so he couldn't claim I stole anything, so he couldn't twist it into a story about my cruelty. By the time the last box left, it was dusk. I stood in the empty bedroom and listened. No TV. No scrolling, no Ethan's voice explaining why his needs were bigger than mine, just silence. It didn't feel lonely. It felt clean. I left the utilities on, not because he deserved comfort, but because I refused to become the villain in the story he was already writing. He could come home to lights and water. He could shower and charge his phone and panic in a well-lit apartment. I wasn't cruel. I was done. The note came last. I sat at the kitchen counter staring at a blank sheet of paper. What do you write to someone who treats you like an accessory? What do you say to a man who weaponizes everything you feel? So I didn't write a speech. I wrote a verdict. Ethan, I embarked on my own self-discovery. I realize I deserve better. Your belongings are in the living room. The lease ends in 3 weeks. Contact the landlord. He's expecting you to either sign a new lease or move out. I found myself. That doesn't include you. Best wishes with your growth. I stared at it when I was done. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt factual. I placed the note on the counter, right where he always dropped his keys, like the world was built to catch him. Then I walked out for the last time. No tears, no shaking, just one long exhale in the hallway before the door clicked shut behind me. In my new apartment, I stood in the middle of the empty living room, boxes stacked like small towers around me. The windows were bigger, the air smelled like fresh paint and possibility, and for the first time in months, my life felt like it belonged to me again. I blocked Ethan's number, then I paused, because I knew something my calm couldn't erase. Ethan didn't handle rejection well, not when it was quiet, not when there was no audience. He needed a reaction. He needed conflict. He needed to be the victim or the hero, not the man who got left behind because he tried to take a vacation with his ex like it was nothing. I stared at my phone. He could still reach me. Email, streaming accounts, social media. I'd cut one thread, not all of them. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks without waking up in a panic. But the next afternoon, Wednesday, my laptop chimed. New email from Ethan. Subject line, what is this? My stomach didn't drop, it tightened. Because I already knew he was back, and he wasn't alone. The first email was short, sharp, the kind that doesn't ask questions, it makes accusations. What is this? I came back early because the retreat was a disaster and you're gone. This isn't funny. Sienna, where are you? I read it once, then again. Then I closed my laptop without replying, because silence, I was learning, was the only language Ethan couldn't manipulate. 5 minutes later, another email arrived. The landlord says I have to sign a new lease. I can't afford this place alone. This feels manipulative, like you're trying to control me. There it was, control. The word he loved when things stopped benefiting him. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling, watching the shadow of the fan blades move slowly. The air here felt lighter. This was the moment old me would have typed a reply, an explanation, a justification, a soft landing. That explanations don't create understanding, they create leverage. So I did something else. I called Noah. He still lived in my old building. 3rd floor, same hallway. The guy who once helped me carry boxes when the elevator broke. The guy who never forgot Ethan's name. Hey, he said when he picked up. Everything okay? I need details, I said. Has Ethan been back? There was a pause on the line. Then Noah exhaled. Yeah, he said quietly. He's here. And he's not calm. There was a pause on the line, then a low whistle. Oh yeah, Noah said. He's back. My chest tightened. How bad? Bad enough that everyone on your floor knows your name now. I closed my eyes. Noah lowered his voice. He showed up late Wednesday night, furious, slamming doors, and he wasn't alone. I already knew the answer. I asked anyway. Marisol? Marisol, Noah confirmed, carrying a tote bag, acting like she lived there. Of course she was. I could see it perfectly, her standing in my living room, touching my furniture, speaking in that calm, superior tone like she was the reasonable one in the room. She kept saying things like, "We'll figure it out," Noah went on, like it was a joint problem. A joint problem? I laughed once, sharp and empty. That's not even the best part, he added. I heard her on the phone. With who? Some guy named Caleb. My fingers went still. Caleb, Marisol's current boyfriend, the one Ethan said was basically just a formality? What was she saying? I asked. Noah hesitated. She was crying, accusing him of spying, saying the retreat wasn't like that. Then she started yelling about social media. I pictured it. Caleb scrolling through photos of Marisol and Ethan under starry skies, captions dripping with growth and alignment. So he didn't know, I said. Nope. Sounded like he found out the same way everyone else did. Social media never lies, it just exposes. And Ethan? I asked. Oh, he was pacing, saying you abandoned him, that you stole the apartment. I pressed my lips together. Stole. Interesting word for something that legally and financially belonged to me. Anything else? Noah's voice dropped. Yeah, your ex is spiraling, and Marisol, she's not calm like she pretends online. She's panicking. I thanked him and hung up. I didn't feel victorious. I felt confirmed. This had never been about a retreat. It had always been about entitlement. The emails kept coming, each one more frantic than the last. This isn't how adults handle conflict. Marisol thinks you're being emotionally abusive. You can't just disappear when things get hard. Ah, Marisol thinks. I imagined her perched on my couch, diagnosing me like she had a PhD in my inner life. I didn't respond. Then my phone lit up. Unknown number. I let it ring. Again and again. Finally, a voicemail. Karen, Ethan's mother. Her voice hit my ears like a familiar, unwelcome perfume. How could you do this to my son, she snapped, skipping hello entirely. He's devastated. He came home expecting a partner, not an eviction notice. I waited until the message ended. Then I called her back. Karen, I said when she picked up, nice to hear from you. Don't get sarcastic with me, she barked. Ethan is practically homeless. He's not homeless, I said calmly. His belongings are safe. He has 3 weeks to sign a new lease or move out. You're cruel, she shot back, all because you're jealous of his bond with Marisol. There it was, jealousy, the universal excuse when accountability feels too heavy. Karen, I said evenly, your son went on a 2-week retreat alone with his ex-girlfriend. Silence. Then, he said you were fine with it. I was, I replied, so fine that I decided to find my own peace somewhere else. You're small-minded, she hissed. Okay, I said. Bye, Karen. I hung up before she could inhale again. That night, notifications started popping up. Password reset attempts, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, all from a location I didn't recognize. I stared at the alerts, then laughed. A real laugh. The audacity. I reset every password, changed them to phrases that made me smile. Get your own streaming. Mindfulness isn't free, not your account. Then my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Ethan wants to know why you're being so petty about the streaming accounts. He's having a breakdown. I typed back, a breakdown over Hulu? Suggest some breathing exercises. Then I blocked the number. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought he'd retreat into whatever story made him feel like the victim. I was wrong, because when Ethan realized he couldn't reach me digitally, he went physical, public, messy. Friday afternoon, after my workout, I walked out of my gym and froze. Ethan was leaning against a car in the parking lot, waiting, and he wasn't alone. Marisol stood a few feet behind him, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding her eyes, like she was there to observe, not participate. I tightened my grip on my gym bag and kept walking. Sienna, Ethan called, we need to talk. I didn't slow down. You can't just ignore me, he said, jogging to catch up. We were together 3 years. 8 months, I corrected, unlocking my car. Living together. The emotional bond was 3 years, he snapped. I looked at him, really looked. What does that even mean? I asked. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't, I said quietly. Marisol cleared her throat. You're being dramatic. I laughed. Of course, I said. You'd know. Ethan exhaled sharply. Look, I get that you're upset, but nothing happened. Great, I said. So you just meditated romantically? Marisol rolled her eyes. We did yoga. We shared feelings. Enchanting, I said. What's the problem now? Ethan's voice dropped. I need a place to live. I met his eyes. So find one. I can't afford anything, he snapped. You know I'm between jobs. Between jobs for 6 months. Between ambitions. Between realities, I said. That's not my problem anymore. Marisol stepped forward. If you ever cared about him, you'd help. I did care, I said. Then he went on a retreat with you. She scoffed. You're just intimidated by our bond. I smiled. Your bond lasted 5 days, I said gently. That's not destiny. That's a short vacation. Ethan's face flushed. You don't get it. Neither do you, I said. You're not even living together. The color drained from Marisol's face, because that's when the truth slipped out. She'd been telling people, including Ethan's mother, that she'd offered him a place to stay. She hadn't. She couldn't, because Caleb had kicked her out. The silence between them was loud, exposing. I opened my car door. As I drove away, I watched them in my rearview mirror. Two people who mistook chaos for connection, now stranded together with nothing but their lies. For the first time, I felt something close to relief. I should have known better, because Ethan wasn't done escalating, not even close. By Saturday morning, he knew where I lived. Saturday started too quietly, the kind of quiet that only exists before something ugly announces itself. I was still in pajamas, coffee steaming in my mug, when my phone buzzed. Smart door camera alert, motion detected. I frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. I tapped the screen. A moving truck idled at the curb. 4 people stood outside my building like they were staging an intervention or an invasion. Ethan, Karen, his younger brother Liam, Marisol, and hovering behind them with anxious energy and a messy bun, Tessa, Ethan's friend from his half-baked consulting venture. My chest didn't seize, it hardened. Karen rang the doorbell, again and again and again. I didn't move. I watched her gesture wildly, her mouth forming words I couldn't hear but completely understood. Finally, I spoke through the intercom. "What do you want?" Karen jumped like she'd been waiting for a ghost to answer. "You need to come outside right now," she snapped. "This has gone far enough." "No," I said calmly, "it really hasn't." Ethan stepped forward, softening his posture like charm might still save him. "Sienna, we just want to talk." "You brought a moving truck," I said. "That tells me everything." Liam cut in, arms crossed. "You're ruining his life over your pride." I laughed quietly. "His life isn't ruined," I said. "He's just facing consequences." Marisol scoffed. "This is so unnecessary." "Oh," I tilted my head. "Is it?"
You mean like going on a 2-week retreat with someone else's boyfriend? Tessa stepped closer to the camera, palms raised, like she was trying to bless the situation into submission. Let's not attack each other. Vibrationally speaking, this is really low energy. I smiled. You know what's low energy? I said. Showing up uninvited to my home with a crowd. Ethan's face tightened. You can't just shut me out like this. I can, I replied, and I am. Karen leaned toward the camera, eyes blazing. You need to step up and take responsibility. I already did, I said. I moved out. That's not responsibility, she hissed. That's running away. No, I corrected. That's choosing myself. Behind them, Marisol shifted. She didn't look smug anymore. She looked tired. Ethan glanced back at her, then at the moving truck. "This was your idea," he muttered. Her eyes flashed. "You said she'd talk." I watched the blame bounce between them like a live wire. Then Ethan snapped. He walked up to my door and tried the handle. The camera caught everything. "Don't," I said sharply. "If you touch that door again, I'm calling the police." He froze. Karen gasped. "You wouldn't." "I absolutely would," I replied, "and I'm documenting everything." That word, documenting, changed the air. Ethan stepped back. Karen grabbed his arm. Liam swore under his breath. Within minutes, they retreated. Mutters, glares, defeat. The moving truck pulled away. I stood in my kitchen, hands steady, heart pounding in a way that felt more alive than afraid. I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. That night at 10:17 p.m., my laptop chimed. A new email from Ethan. Subject line, business opportunity. I opened it. I shouldn't have. Curiosity is a powerful drug. He was pitching me an investment. 10% equity in his mindful consulting brand. The amount he wanted, exactly 3 months' rent from the old apartment. The business plan was 2 sentences long. We help people align purpose with profit. Your support allows me to create without housing stress. I stared at the screen, stunned into silence. This wasn't desperation. This was entitlement. Stripped naked. I forwarded the email to Noah. His reply came back in under a minute. Is he serious? I didn't answer, because Sunday morning brought something worse. I woke up to my phone vibrating non-stop. Texts, emails, missed calls, then a message from my boss. Hey, is everything okay? Your ex just emailed me about funding a mindful venture. My stomach dropped. I opened LinkedIn. There it was. Ethan had messaged everyone, my colleagues, my former clients. A professor who once wrote me a recommendation letter. Even a recruiter I hadn't spoken to in years. Hi, despite personal challenges, I'm raising funds for a purpose-driven business. I noticed you're connected to my ex, Sienna. Asterisk. He was using my name, my reputation, my network to sell a fantasy. Something shifted inside me. Not panic, resolve. Because this wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about protection. By Monday morning, Ethan had gone further. He launched a crowdfunding campaign, help a visionary entrepreneur escape emotional abuse. I read the description in numb disbelief. I had financially controlled him, isolated him, sabotaged his growth, abandoned him during a mental health crisis, the crisis being consequences. Goal, $25,000. Raised, $41. All from Karen. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. It was Ethan. Sienna, he said, real talk. Things are spiraling. You don't say. I'm staying with Liam, but he's about to kick me out. He rushed on. Marisol's energy is unstable. She thinks you're sabotaging her aura. I closed my eyes. This is not my problem, I said. Just give me some money, he pleaded, to calm things down. No, I replied. Silence, then a click. Wednesday was court day. He'd filed a civil claim. Something about domestic partnership damages. He represented himself. The judge skimmed the papers, unimpressed. Sir, she said flatly, you lived together for 8 months. You were on a trip with another woman when she moved out. What exactly are you claiming? Ethan swallowed. Emotional investment. The judge dismissed the case in under 5 minutes. Outside the courthouse, Ethan stood with Tessa, filming him delivering a speech about the systemic oppression of emotionally intelligent men. The video got 12 views. 10 of them were Karen's accounts. By Thursday morning, my phone rang again. It was the landlord. Sienna, he said, exhausted. Your ex is trying to squat in the apartment. My pulse spiked. What? He changed the locks, printed a fake lease, misspelled his own name. I closed my eyes. I left the utilities on, I said slowly. They're still in my name. There was a pause. Then the landlord exhaled. That explains a lot. That afternoon, I called the utility com.